What's going on, guys? It's your boy LQ, Mr. Real Deal Fantasy HQ, and this is the Fantasy Football Picks and Bets presented by Prize Picks. Make sure you guys download the app, sign up today using promo code MMN, and you guys will be matched up to $100 on your first deposit. So please hit that link in the bio, sign up today using promo code MMN. You guys be ready to make the big bucks. Got a great show today for you. Lauren is out on vacation. She'll be back next week. I'll be filling in this week, giving you the waiver wire, pickups, and some injury reports, which is so unfortunate. And then we got some streamers for you guys. So hit that link in the bio for the Prize Picks leaderboard as well to check out through the week and see how you guys are doing. But let's jump into some waiver wire targets. Some guys you need to be picking up, some guys you need to have on your radar, some guys that are cooking up that can help out your roster now or even later in the season, which is playoffs, which are most important. You need guys that are going to step up and show out. No bench warmers, no zombies on the bench, guys that need to help you when your name is called. That is what is important. So let's get into it. So wide receiver Khalil Rahman is definitely a target on the waiver wire. 6% roster exposure, looking like the wide receiver one for the Lions. He just put up 115 yards. Jared Goff needs to be treating him as the wide receiver one. I definitely feel as though Swift will get his workload, Hawk will get his workload, but what about the wide receivers? So he's definitely showing up and showing out. This isn't his first sighting where he had the volume. I definitely feel as though Jared Goff, to be successful, he needs another guy in that offense, and that can definitely be Rahman. So 6% roster exposure. Doesn't hurt to go stash him. I definitely feel as though he's a nice plug and play for dealing with injuries, for dealing with bye weeks, whatever the case may be. But something beautiful is happening here. The volume is there for him. No, just another guy is going to pull up 115 yards out of nowhere on the Rams. That's what's crazy. So I think moving forward, Jared Goff might have his wide receiver one that he needs to take serious. So the next guy I want to talk about, another guy that, I've been raving about this whole entire offseason, but Van Jefferson, man, he only has a 21% roster exposure, so he's still out there available for you. I definitely feel as though you need to be getting him now because he's getting into a groove with him and Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford is looking for him in the red zone. He's getting his targets. He's getting into the end zone, which is most important, and he's definitely getting into a groove where 7 targets, man, if he can get that every single game, it's going to be a problem. The wide receiver 3 position is definitely up for grabs there. And obviously, Van Jefferson's been putting his foot down on every single week. So he's definitely a guy to target. Next guy, Russell Gage. Welcome back. Welcome back to my roster. 27% roster exposure right now. He's definitely still available out there for you guys. He had a great game. He looked like he was getting into a rhythm as well. Matt Ryan and him basically getting back on script, what they should have been doing in the beginning of the season, but him when dealing with injury, etc. Matt Ryan going through his trials and tribulations as well. But I definitely feel as though today the offense just looked incomplete against that Miami defense. And again, Russell Gage is basically a guy you could just throw into your lineup if you're dealing with buys, et cetera, et cetera. So I feel as though moving forward, if Matt Ryan can keep playing how he's playing, getting Pitts involved, really doing this thing, you need that third guy because I definitely don't feel as though Cordero Patterson is going to be, a thing. I understand, he's doing great right now, but I cannot see this going forward in the future. Maybe it does. I don't know. But I feel as though Russell Gage can be an attractive play, on a bye week if you guys are dealing with injuries as well. So go ahead and go get him. But let's move on to some running back. Samaje Perine is interesting, but only a 9% roster exposure. I feel as though he should be on a lot more rosters, being with Mixon not having that great of an injury history, but he looked great even with Mixon involved into that offense. He actually had 52 yards and popped off for a nice touchdown run. I feel as though Samaje Perine should definitely be stashed just based on how thin running backs are out there right now on the wire. So with him only having a 9% roster exposure, it's crazy to me because everybody picked him up and then dropped them. Picked him up, then drop them. Now this is the time to pick him up and hold him because he's still being involved. He's been on a lot of third downs. If you look at that Ravens and Cincinnati game, I feel as though with him being involved in the third downs, he's going to get a check down there. He's probably going to pop off for a nice run up the gut. Who knows? He definitely has that home run ability, so he's definitely a guy you need to be going to pick up. Moving on to another guy, Kenneth Gainwell. His role might increase with the injury of Miles Sanders. So Kenneth Gainwell is a guy that's always been the PPR guy that had the upside. He's always been heavily used in the red zone. So now with Sanders possibly sidelined, it only makes sense to go get you a Kenneth Gainwell for that PPR upside. Another running back on the same team, Boston Scott. If Sanders is going to miss some time with his ankle injury, Boston Scott is a downhill runner. He runs hard. He looks for contact. I love a guy like that brings that explosive. He runs like he's ready to run somebody over. So he's definitely a guy you need to go get on your roster as well, with only a 6% roster exposure as well. So moving on to the tight ends. Now, C.J. Uzomah's turned up on week 7. Now, he's definitely a guy you need to have on your roster now. I understand he has that big playability and he's a little touchdown dependent, but no, man, he's becoming a guy in that offense that you can stamp valid. And you have Mark Andrews, you have Waller that's dealing with injury as well on a bye week this week. CJ is a nice plug and play. Go pick him up with only 14% roster exposure. Moving on to Foster. I don't want to mess up his name. Monroe, whatever. He has a 2% roster exposure. Waller is dealing with a bunch of injuries right now. Hopefully his bye week helps. But if it doesn't, Foster comes in as a nice plug and play in that offense because he's taking on the workload that Waller is getting. He's taking on some of those targets. Derek Carr trusts him. He feels as though he's a big playmaker. He's a star. He can have the faith in him to make the plays. So Foster comes in as a definitely guy to pick up even if Waller is healthy, it's bound for him to get banged up again, dealing with multiple injuries, dealing with a knee, an ankle, and a wrist. His whole body's all messed up. So I definitely feel like Foster needs to be rostered right now. Only 2% roster exposure right now. So let's jump into some of these veggies. See, I call them veggies because I don't like injuries. Injuries are like my least favorite part about fantasy. So let's jump into it with Patrick Mahomes, man. He was struggling. He was looking bad. A lot of turnovers. He has 9 INTs in the last 7 games. It's just horrendous. So he's dealing with a head, neck injury, and also we can add Pride was hurt in that game. So I definitely feel as though he will be monitored. But he did pass the concussion protocol, which is good news. So nothing to worry about there. Probably just a stiff neck. Josh Jacobs is dealing with a chest injury. He left the game early. I look for Kenyon Drake, just a clear plug and play. He's showing up when his name is called. So that's good news there if you have Kenyon Drake on your rosters or if he's still available out there for some reason. Miles Sanders dealing with an ankle injury. Not sure yet. No timetable on how long he'll be out or if he'll be out at all, but it didn't look too good. He immediately grabbed that ankle, which is unfortunate because I feel as though the Eagles were just starting to get him involved. Next up, we got Jonnu Smith. He left the game early with a shoulder injury. It looked like at one point he was going to come back in, but they decided not to put him back in. So it may be a little bit more serious than what we thought. So he may miss some time as well. Zach Wilson took an ugly hit. All the weight went down on his knee, and I feel as though he may miss some time as well. Not saying that, it was done purposely, because if you watch the replay, it just looks like the guy was just trying to make a play. So Zach Wilson, unfortunately, went out with a knee injury. He did not return. Hopefully he's okay. Hopefully he can return back as the starting quarterback, and hopefully the Jets can turn around it just in general, because that offense looked horrendous. I think, they need to change something up, man. Something in that playbook ain't working. Zach Wilson just not making the reads. But moving on. That was the injury recap. Again, the veggies. But let's get into some streamers. Some guys that I feel as though you have to go get these guys as a streamer. If you're in a position where you're like me, you had Ryan Fitzpatrick and you drafted Deshaun Watson. Woohoo! So you've been streaming quarterback since week 1. Anyway, so I feel as though this week's streamer for quarterback is Daniel Jones versus Kansas City. Kansas City is giving up the most rushing yards. They're actually second in most rushing touchdowns. So Kansas City's defense isn't that great. And Daniel Jones is looking like the man. He's out there making one-handed Odell Beckham catches. So Daniel Jones against Kansas City is a very attractive streamer this week. I could see him having semi-good game. I could see him having 20 fantasy points, maybe more. Who knows? But if he gets it done on the ground with 8 rushing attempts last week, if he brings that over to Kansas City, man, stars in the moon, man. Daniel Jones is going to have himself a game against an embarrassing Kansas City defense. So hopefully Mahomes is back. hopefully he's good. He's up and at 'em, and maybe they can get something going, because I would hate to see back-to-back weeks getting embarrassed, especially to the Giants. Nothing against the Giants fans. I know you guys got your first win, but hey, just saying. Now, let's get into a defense streaming. I feel like this is a good defense. It's basically whoever's facing the Jets. Like I mentioned before, Zach Wilson's dealing with injury, so he may not be the starting quarterback. So, again, you can get the Bengals defense that they have in Week 8. They only have a 12% roster exposure. It's a good defense you can stream. I think every defense versus the Jets for the rest of the season is a good streamer option, to be honest. But again, they're coming in with some heat. They just held off Lamar Jackson. They just basically showed and stamped that they are legit. The defense definitely got better from last season to this season, which is also a huge plus. Shout out to Cincinnati Bengals. Again, it's definitely a stamp that they got Lamar Jackson, to hold him off. And I think, it's a no-brainer with them going against the Jets, who possibly have their backup quarterback, which I don't really know who that is. I never heard of him, but I think it's a no-brainer here to have the Bengals as your streaming number one defensive option this week. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the episode. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Leave a comment below on what you guys think about the episode. Lauren will be back next week to bring you the heat, because she always brings fire content. And make sure you sign up today at prizepicks.com using promo code MMN. And you guys will be matched up to $100, which is free money. So I'll see you guys next week on the recap show for Week 8. Peace.